Hello, hello. So it goes through till about 25:20. Cool. Yep. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's added. Yeah, that's added. It's just on OBS when I talk, it's just before
Thank you. put you to sleep, I'd like to wake you up with pearly shells. Pearly shells from the ocean, shining in the sun, covering the shore. When I see them, my heart tells me that I love you more than all. Little pearly shells on the first night of the full moonlight, wait for me down by the shore. On the first night of the full moonlight, I'll be returning and I'll never leave you anymore. For every grain of sand upon the beach, I got a kiss for you. I got more left over for each star twinkling in the blue. Pearly shells from the ocean, shining in the sun, covering the shore. When I see them, my heart tells me that I love you more than all. A little pearly shell. Pearly shells from the ocean, shining in the sun, covering the shore. When I see them, my heart tells me that I love you more than all. Little pearly shells. Here's your big chance. For every grain of sand upon the beach, I got a kiss for you. I got more left over for each star. Pearly shells from the ocean, shining in the sun. Now that's real pretty. When I see them, my heart tells me that I love you more than all. Pearly shells, more than all. Pearly shells, more than all.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome. Before we begin, could I remind you, if you haven't already done so, to switch off your phones or pop them onto silent. And during the service, if you feel like you'd like to take a seat, there are quite a few on either side at the front, so please feel free to come forward and take a seat. Well, welcome to you all as we gather in loving memory of Auntie Ray, and a warm welcome to those joining us via live stream. We do hope you feel a part of today's service. With the spirit of love and friendship that you each bring from both near and far, Today is going to be made even more special, and I know that Auntie Ray's very proud family greatly appreciate you taking the time to be here as we remember and celebrate her life. My name is Gina Breakey, and it really is an honour to have been invited to officiate today's farewell for Auntie Ray. It is my hope that this service will be a chance to pay tribute to her in a meaningful way and reflect on the things that made her so respected and loved by her family, her friends, and our community. As we begin, I would like to invite Auntie Ray's daughter, Christine, who is going to share with us a welcome to country.
Hello everyone. I'd just like to say that this morning's sunrise was absolutely beautiful at Eagle Point, and all the swans and the ducks were out in the lake, so it was a lovely morning to start. A very warm welcome to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, elders, families, mob and community here today. We meet on country of the traditional custodians, Rabalong people of the Gunai-Kurnai Nation. We pay respect to our ancestors, the old people, elders past and present. I'm just going to mention a little bit about country. It's everything. It's family, it's connection, it is life. Mum, Auntie Ray, connection is a journey. The season of country would bring families and mob together at gatherings to special places and camping, at the riversides, to the mountains, to the high country, where the sleet of snow melts away to the ocean, to the wide open plains and the bushland, with her four-legged animals, mirror guns, by her side. Country provides mental, physical, emotional and spiritual nourishment for all of us. Sitting around a fire, listening to the old people telling stories and speaking language. Our language are the voices of the lands. There is life all around us, sounds of birds, animals, rustling day and night, eyes watching over us. Enjoying your surroundings, close connections with loved ones, families and friends. Care for one another. Our roles and responsibilities and obligation keeps us connected and bound through our old people to country. Nurungi, we are happy. Yarraby, I am going. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. We're gathered together today to acknowledge the life of a truly remarkable woman. Rachel Ramona Mullet, or Auntie Ray as she was known by you all, graced us with her kindness, wisdom and unwavering strength. Her compassion and sense of community knew no bounds, touching everyone she met with warmth and understanding. And this service will reflect the love and respect felt by everyone who knew and loved her. Family, friendship and community is everything at a time like this, and it's obvious from today's attendance that Auntie Ray made an impact in many people's lives. She was a mentor and guiding light to many. Her door was always open to anyone in need. She was talented and creative and hardworking. Her life revolved around her family and her culture, and today will reflect on all of these special qualities. A proud Monero, Ngarigo and Gunai woman, Auntie Ray passed on values and lessons that will continue through the generations to come. She lived with a spiritual and cultural connection with her people, and she was a senior custodian of knowledge and language. Auntie Ray was passionate about the protection and preservation of Aboriginal language and culture by promoting awareness within her community, something she and her family were so proud of. Doris and Christine shared with me their mum's love of music. She had a great appreciation of art. She enjoyed writing and she loved animals, especially her dogs. A kind and caring woman, Auntie Ray never had a bad word to say about anyone, and everyone who knew her genuinely loved her. As we spend this time together this morning reflecting on Auntie Ray's legacy, let us remember her for the profound impact she has had on those around her. Her generosity, her selflessness, and her genuine need to help others will continue to inspire us. And though she may no longer be with us in person, her spirit will remain with us forever. Well, it goes without saying that family meant everything to Auntie Ray. And the names that are printed in your booklet are just a few of the many family members who were special to her. Most special to Auntie Ray were her siblings, Alan, Peter, Faye, Alex, Graham, Fred, and John, who are all deceased, and her sisters Pat and Julie. Her children, Jenny, Doris, Abby, Ricky, Christine, Colin, Michael, and Richard, who is deceased, and her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren, whom she loved dearly. To Auntie Ray's extended family, including her many nieces and nephews, and to everyone here today, you were an important part of her life, and I'm sure if she could, she would thank you all for the love and the friendships that have been shared. As you each take this time to remember her in your own special way, may it be a warm reminder of how much she has meant to so many. When our spirits seem to waver in moments of sadness, our hearts reveal a remarkable trait, an unyielding capacity for resilience. Our first poem is testament to this. It's titled Our Hearts Are Breaking Invasion, Conflict and Resilience, and it's going to be read by her granddaughter Holly.
As I walk on the wall by the lake's edge and gaze across the water, I do not see the speeding boats and other foreign matter. Oh God, my eyes are blurry, sorry. Instead, I see campfires and dark-skinned people on the other shore. My people that have gone a long time before. I feel my heart swell with tears of sorrow, for my people's land was stolen, and for them there was heartbreak and no more tomorrow. I feel their spirits beside me, like a soft breeze that suddenly entwine. Their sad tears forever will mingle with mine. For thousands of years they roamed this land, my people, creators of dreamtime and happy sound. Sharing a freedom no other race can define, it took only a few years of white man's invasion, the land he claims he found, to take away the dignity and sharing of Aboriginal people, black man, my people, firstborn of this land.
Thank you, Holly. Before we hear a little about Auntie Ray's life, I would like to ask those of you who are able to please stand, and we're going to now share in a hymn in the Sweet By and By. The words are inside your booklet, and please feel free to sing along if you wish.
There's a that beautiful shore. The melodious songs of the blessed, and our spirits shall sorrow no more. Not a sigh for the blessing of rest in the sweet by and by. We shall meet on that beautiful shore in the sweet by and by. We shall meet on that beautiful shore. To our bountiful Father above, we will offer our tribute of praise for the glorious gift of His love and the blessing that hallow our days. In the sweet by and by, we shall meet on that beautiful shore. In the sweet by and by, Lord, we shall meet on that beautiful shore. We shall meet on that beautiful shore.
I'm now going to ask Kerry and Catherine to come forward. They've got a eulogy to share about their nan's life, and following them is going to be some very special tributes from family. So please enjoy this trip down memory lane of Auntie Ray's life.
Hello everyone. It's my cousin Catherine. I'm Kerry. We're one of 4 granddaughters that Nan had. Norringe, thank you for being here today, for sharing our sorrow and for celebrating the accomplished life of our much loved Nan, a wife, a mother, a grandmother, a great-grandmother, and Auntie Ray to her nieces and nephews in our community. Auntie Ray, our Nan, was an artist, poet, storyteller, activist, writer, last speaker of the Ngariga language, senior custodian, Ngariga Monero, cultural knowledge holder. She lived in Gippsland most of her life, but her spiritual cultural life was a life she lived with her mother's Ngariga Monero family.
Nan was a custodian of the Ngariga Monero knowledge. She was taught this from her old people, her mother and aunties. It was their way of life and her way of life. She has always practiced this knowledge, and she has shared much of this with her family members. Nan was the beloved wife of Albert Pop, mother of Jenny, Doris, Abby, Ricky, Christine, Colin, Michael, and rest in peace, Uncle Richard. She has 20 grandchildren and 29 great-grandchildren. Nan was the eldest daughter of Peter and Doris Monta and had 9 brothers and sisters. She was born in 1935 in a tent on the banks of the Shoalhaven River, Berry, New South Wales. Her father and grandfather were working there at the time, and her mother followed great-grandfather there from August. Her father moved around with work, and wherever he worked, the family lived.
Her family lived a free life. They never lived on a mission or reserve. They lived together as a family. She has always been very proud of her Solomon family. Nyubby, her grandfather, was a tracker with the New South Wales Police in Cooma. Then he worked with his sons on sheep stations near Bombala and Delegate, shearing, fencing and shooting wild dogs. The family followed their ancestral path along the Snowy River to find work. The family travelled around in a cart and wagon drawn by an old horse. They travelled back and forth to the mountain and followed the Snowy River down to Orbost, then along the coast up to Jervis Bay and back to Jindabyne, then back to Orbost.
As a child, Nan, she remembers the family living on the Snowy River at Jarramond and Beatballong on the Orbost side and diving off the old ridge. She remembers other mob camping in shacks and tents in the willows. They were seasonal workers. Nan remembers that when the police or welfare came to their camp, Nan Monta would chase them away with a big stick. Nan would speak of these times often to remind us of how it used to be. At a young age, Nan Monta taught Nan to draw with charcoal from campfires and on the clean, swept earth, and on scraps of paper. Nan would say that her art connects her to the land and teaches her about respecting culture and the spirits of her people.
Nan started school at Orbost, and her grandfather Monta, who had a market garden in Orbost, would go past the school every day to give her an apple. Nan has fond memories of her grandfather Monta, especially when she would steal the passion fruit from his market garden. When she was 10 at Orbost Primary School, her family left to go to Bombadilly, New South Wales to do a sleeper cutting. They came back and camped at Kringle before they moved into the bark huts her father had built in Numarella. She went to Numarella School. She remembered walking to the bakery in Numarella to get a loaf of bread. She used to pick the middle out and it would arrive back at the camp half-eaten.
At 14, Nan left school and went to work in the seed sorting factory in Numarella. They would pick corn, peas, beans and potatoes on the Orbost flats when they were in season. At 16, she helped her father cutting sleepers with a cross saw. Nan spoke her Nagaria Monera language with her family. Pop would recall that was the first time he had heard Aboriginal people speak in language, and it took him a while to work out they were really saying about him. Nan and Auntie Ray Stewart, her first cousin, would talk to each other in language all the time. One time in a meeting, Auntie Ray Stewart was up the front talking, and Nan stood up and spoke in language. Auntie stopped and went back to her seat. Nan said, "I just told her I'm hungry and it's tucker time."
Nan and Pop married at the church in La Perouse in Sydney. They were married 60 years. Nan recalled Pop blowing his pay on the dogs, so there was no honeymoon. And that one time Pop complained about what she'd cooked for dinner, she tipped it over him and he never complained ever again. Pop and grandfather worked at the refinery at Botany Bay. Nan recalls when she and Pop and other family enjoyed going on the showboat in Sydney, where big-name stars performed. They lived with Nan and grandfather Monta in La Perouse until they moved to Club Terrace. Pop said the first time he saw Nan when the mob was doing seasonal work at Longwarry in South Gippsland. Great-grandfather Monta and the family lived at Jackson's Track near Druin, and where the mob worked cutting timber or doing seasonal work. Pop always spoke to his memory of her yellow dress, white straw hat, and that he was in love. He followed the family with the seasonal work, got to work in the timber industry with great-grandfather. Nan was always chaperoned by her cousins, Auntie Bub and Auntie Ray.
Pop and Nan moved the family around as Pop worked in the timber mills at Club Terrace, at Cairn River and at Bairnsdale. From Cairn River they sent the older kids to school in Bairnsdale and Orbost. Then, in 1968, the family moved into O'Brien Street in Bairnsdale. They moved back to Cairn River, where Pop worked as a tree feller and bought their own home. Nan and Pop and the kids, like many other families, spent their weekends and holidays bean picking at Lindenow and Bega. At Cairn River, Nan was on the school council, and she always supported all the kids' supporting activities. Nan and Pop pushed for a hostel for rural Koori kids in Bairnsdale. Every week, Nan drove the older kids to and from Cairn River to Orbost and Bairnsdale. Nan has always worked hard to support the family.
Together, Nan and Pop picked beans for a very long time. Nan would take her babies to the paddock in a cardboard box. Nan also worked hard in the community. With other elders, she pushed for an elders hostel in Bairnsdale. She worked as the home and community care coordinator. Nan worked at the Bairnsdale Technical School as the teacher's aide. She was the manager at the hostel in Morwell. She was part of the women's group at GJAC and involved with their activities. Nan always supported the cultural activities that Pop was organising in the community, such as camps, NAIDOC and other events. Nan supported the Gunai elders and Pop in the native title process before there was even money. Often she helped out with fuel money and made beds and soup to feed people.
At the same time, she would travel up to Jindabyne and in the Far East Gippsland to do Nagaria Monero business. Over the years, she enjoyed being out doing cultural heritage work. She talked a lot about her old people. She always took off her shoes to walk barefoot on her ancestral country. Over the years, she lived at different homes in Bairnsdale before settling in their final home in Bruthen, where she and Pop lived for over 30 years. She was devoted to her beloved dogs, and many are buried in the gardens. Her old garden grown mostly from cuttings, the best lemon tree, and she loved her roses and wisteria that hung over the entrance.
Family recalls staying with Nan and Pop. Nan would always make the warmest and most comfortable beds, cooked a soup or curry, made up the fire, and happily greeted visitors. The family has shared many happy family occasions at Bruthen, and we love spending time and staying with Nan and Pop. Nan loved many things. She loved to dance, to play her music, work on her art, caring for her dogs, and going camping. She was generous and supportive of all her family, but she would soon tell them if she had something to say. She always had a bed ready and a feed cooked. Nan always had a good sense of humour. In her 60s, Nan began to produce artwork to continue the storytelling traditions of her old people. Her work interweaved from her memory, imagination and her observation of her natural world. Bush food gathering is often a subject of her work. Nan's artwork recalls both Gunai and Ngarigo stories. Her corn cob dolls artwork referenced her time with her cousins when the family was doing seasonal work. Her artwork was shortlisted for the 2007 Victorian Indigenous Art Awards.
Nan's Moth on Paperbark was awarded the 2006 Deadly Art Award of the Victorian Indigenous Arts Awards. Her work was acquired by the National Gallery of Victoria. Many of her works are held in Bunjalaka, the Koori Heritage Trust, the Latrobe Regional Gallery and privately. Nan was very proud of her family and shared their special occasions and achievements. She loved all their dogs too. She loved all her nieces and nephews. A quiet achiever who was a strong woman with a deep connection to her culture and spiritual life. Unsurprisingly, Nan was an activist. She would write letters to the Bairnsdale Advertiser to express her views when she read stories or letters that she deemed as racist. She would sit with her youngest son at the gazebo in Bruthen and protest with the Aboriginal flag. She travelled to Sydney with the community to protest at the 150-year commemoration of colonisation. Nan often spoke out on issues about where she felt strongly and would express this in her writing and her art.
Nan was a gifted writer and wrote many of these stories told to her by her old people. Some she has allowed to be published, others she's kept for herself. She wrote many poems and stories, some of which have been in books and others we will share with you today. Her poems evoke her sense of right and wrong, of loss and of knowledge, and of stories she's been the custodian of. Nan practiced her cultural ways in her everyday life. It was a privilege to have known her. Nan gave us a strong sense of our responsibilities and who we are in our identity.
Like our old people, she will remain with us all our lives. She reminds us that always we are her eyes and her footprint, of her knowledge and of our Ngari, Monera and Gunai people. We love you, Nan.
We love you, Nan.
Always.
Thanks.
Nurinj, everyone. I'm Paul, the oldest grandson of Nan. Nurinj is a word that means it's nice to see you, and it's typically used to meet, greet someone, and I think it's equally appropriate today that it's nice to see you all here joining us to pay respect to remember the life of a remarkable woman, which is our Nan. But being one of only 20 grandchildren, I'm certain there's many stories here to share, and I hope many of my siblings or cousins may want to come up today as well to share some of your own stories and reflections of the special memories of Nan as well. So as we come together here surrounded by love and memories, we are reminded of the profound impact that she had on our lives, as we just heard. It's difficult to sum up the life of someone so special, but I hope to share just a small glimpse of the person she was and the legacy that she leaves behind from my perspective. To me, Nan was a beacon of cultural strength, never-ending kindness and infinite wisdom. And like many, she called all of us grandchildren and great-children Nan. But whenever something unfortunate happened, whether I lost something or I got hurt or something, she'd say, "Oh, Jingo's, Nan." And today it's my turn as we say goodbye to Nan. "Oh, Jingo's, Nan." Growing up away in the city from a fairly young age and visiting during school holidays was something that I always looked forward to. Spending time around the house, doing odd jobs, sitting down and hearing stories of the early years gone by, playing with all those mirigans, and even saving some of the visitors from Jinan, that big white dog. When they came to the gate, they were too scared to come in. So that was my job sometimes when I was there. And that was some of the memories that I'll always cherish. Also spending time travelling up the coast, up to Mystery Bay sometimes. I would travel with Nan and Pop. And Pop was always travelling at light speed to try and beat everyone to their favourite campsite. And Nan was always telling him to slow down. Or it was, memories of Boobaloo, the other little crazy dog that was in the back seat trying to bite all the doors and the seats, and always trying to stop him from going too crazy. But along the way, Nan and Pop were always pointing out those important places of cultural significance that they'd travelled, and remembering times when they spent working up and down the coast and following job opportunities to provide for the family. They were special times, especially for me, especially times spent at our other spiritual home, Mystery Bay. Everyone came together and shared stories about life, even scary ones to keep us kids in line, the ones. All the extended family would come and visit Nan and Pop, and for a cuppa and a yarn around the campfire, and that's how we got to meet all the relations up there, up and down the coast, because everyone would come together and share their stories. Pop was always finding and fixing stuff, but Nan was always prepared. In the later years, things got a little bit more sophisticated, and they got that caravan, which I now have, and have kept it travelling up and down the coast. But it had everything you needed to camp, and there was so much in that caravan that crammed into every cupboard that it earned the nickname of Raymart, not Kmart, because at Mystery Bay, if you needed something, you could probably go get it from Nan, from Raymart. And as you heard a little bit before, despite always knowing who we are as Monera and Ngarigo people, our stories and our connections, Nan dedicated a lot of her time towards achieving recognition of our rights as traditional owners on country. Sadly, she'll never get to see that formal recognition be realised, but I was very honoured that she entrusted me with the the chairperson role that she held for such a long time with Nindi Najan. And I hope that one day in this regard we can make her dreams come true. So I'm sure you would all agree that Nan had a way of making everyone feel valued and cherished, no matter who they were or where they came from. The door was always open for a cuppa and a yarn, and the kettle was always on the boil. Her home was always a sanctuary if you get past the dogs. A place that in her presence we all felt a sense of belonging and a sense of family. Her kitchen was the heart of the home, filled with the aromas of home-cooked meals, soup and curried sausages, as Kerry and Catherine said, or even up at Mystery Bay when she'd make us some damper as well. And that brought us all together. It was here that we learned the value of family traditions, or gathering around the table and sharing our lives. Nan had a heart as vast as the ocean. She was generous, always putting the needs of others before her own. Her legacy is not just in the memories that we hold dear, but in the lives she touched and the differences she made. Today, as we say goodbye, we also celebrate the incredible life she lived. We remember her not with sorrow, but with gratitude, the time that we had with her. Her spirit will continue to guide us, her lessons will continue to shape us, and her love will forever be a part of us. So in closing, I'd like to share a quote that resonates deeply with me and personally, and one that I believe encapsulates her. Those we love don't ever go away. They walk beside us every day, unseen, unheard, but always near, still loved, still missed and very dear. I love you, Nan. May your spirit go free with the ancestors and continue to guide us as we face new challenges every day. Yerubi.
Thank you to Kerry and Catherine and Paul for beginning those beautiful tributes. Now, Taya and Sienna, coming forward to share with us a bit about their great-grandnan. Thank you.
Hello everyone. I just wrote something to say to Nan. Nan, I'm so lucky to have had you in my life for 20 years. You've been such a caring, kind and beautiful great-grandmother, and I hope to be inspirational like you are to me. You have inspired me to embrace my big family, be kind to others, and and be involved in my culture, which I am eternally grateful for. You will live on in my heart and everyone else's. You impacted during your life. I will miss our chats, your stories, and the surprise visits I made to you. I will always be happy when I think about you and your impact on me. I love you forever, Nan, and I'll see you in my dreams.
I just wanted to share a little memory. So we remember when we used to go and visit Nan in her Bruthen home, and she would always have little Chelsea following her from room to room and never leaving her side. There was always people at Nan's house, whether it was us visiting from Melbourne or far away, or Uncle Ricky or Uncle Chook. She would always have company, and she loved to be surrounded by her family.
Thanks, girls. Not an easy thing to do. Now, to conclude the family tributes, I'd like to ask Ricky to come forward. Where's Ricky hiding? Thanks, Ricky.
Welcome, everybody. On behalf of my family, our family, thank you for coming, paying your respect to our mother. She was very special. I was very fortunate. Everything that's been mentioned by members of our family, her grandchildren, her great-grandchildren, it's very much I was going to be saying. I was told to keep my response very short. Actually, I don't like talking, but sometimes I do. As her son, one of her sons, I feel as a family, as my brothers and sisters, Jennifer, Dallas, Abby, myself, Christine, Colin, Michael and Richard, we were blessed to have such a loving, beautiful, supportive, strong mother. She was also our friend. She was everybody's friend. She had a warm heart, a big heart. Her house was everybody's house. Always had the light on. She always had food for anybody that came. There were many people in this here today could have their memories going to visit Mum and Dad at prison. There was food, there was laughter, there was discussions, there was debates, but there was warmth. There was a fire going, and she was never say anything bad about anybody. She loved everybody, as been mentioned. She loved her brothers and sisters very much, her mum and dad, and her community and her family, her siblings, her children, her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren. Just a couple of things. It was just mentioned in the eulogy about Mum, our loving mother, very strong, very staunch, very loving. Back in the 70s in Canberra, I don't want to say this because it's a reflection of Mum's character and her strengths, that we were in the Canberra primary school, just not us as the Monot family, the Montes were there and the Funns were there too. And as Mum was at a mother's group meeting, somebody in that meeting decided to get up and complain about all the Ganjis or Munas or nits in that classroom. There was a suggestion by this particular lady that she made reference to us, to the black kids that were there. Mum politely got up and said to her, this is a true story, she told her grandchildren, she got up and she offered her outside. She said, come outside and say that to me. She was determined, that was Mum. It was mentioned that Mum with Dad many years ago, back in the 70s, it's been mentioned, but I can remember this, and my brothers and sisters can remember also. Dad used to complain about Mum's cooking, especially about her pasta, beautiful pasta. And there's many in this room here who've been to Mum's house and had some of that pasta. Dad complained one night, sitting at the kitchen table in Canberra. There was 4 of us on this side, 4 on that side, and Dad was at the head of the table, about the pasta. So what did Mum do? She got up, grabbed a pot, walked over to him and tipped it all over him and said something to him. It's the only time I will say this, it's the only time I could say this, that we were actually all stunned mullots. There was all us little kids just looking at Mum, looking at Dad, looking at the pasta that was on Dad, and I could tell it was dripping down. Don't worry, we already had food. This was Mum always cooked excess. And she just, she made a point. From that day on, and every day, Dad never complained, especially about pasta. She was a very determined, very staunch, very loving, very caring, but she also, there was a point, there's a point to Mum. And we loved her for it, and we admire and we respect her for it, and all of us do. The other thing which was interesting, a few days, about a couple of months ago, Patrick's daughter, my granddaughter, Elsie, happens to be on the same birthday as Mum. So for years and years, and she's coming 9 this year, for years and years it was always Mum's birthday, Nan's birthday, Nan's birthday, poor Elsie. Yes, it was her birthday too. So Mum has politely, respectfully asked me as her son and as her grandfather to tell Elsie, it is now your birthday. That's the character of the person we're talking about. Warm, friendly, strong, passionate. So Elsie, it is now your birthday. It will always now be your birthday. Which is also rather quite interesting. It's actually my birthday today. So I was born on this day by our mother back in 1958. So you can do your sums. Not that old, but I'm old too. So all those years ago, I was born. And today, we are now putting our mother to rest. Our mother to rest. It's also interesting that in Mum's coffin is our youngest brother, Richard. Richard passed away on the 5th of January 2006. Unfortunately, tragic loss. Every day is a loss. So it was Mum's, and he got cremated. And he's been with Mum for many years at prison, and he came to my house when Mum came to my house. And I was blessed. I had Mum for 2.5 years. Richard is now is resting with Mum. In this, it's her request that he is now with her. And it's a good thing. So I'd just like to say that in life there is death, and in death there is life. And in Mum, she gave us life. She blessed us with her strength, her values, her teachings, her language, and her food. I was fortunate, I'll finish in a minute. When she stayed with me, and I used to cook soup. She would sit there, and it was a sequence of cooking full soups. I had to go and buy all the ingredients from Lukey's, the meat, all the veggies. You put it in the pot, onions first, butter first, then the onions. You can't burn the onions. I wasn't allowed to burn the onions, it wouldn't taste right. But everything had to come from Lukey's. So I was lucky, I had her with me for 2.5 years. And I'm going to miss her. We all are going to miss her. She certainly will never be forgotten. Never, ever. She was our mother. She was our friend. She was our guide. She was everything to us. So, Mum, love you. Bless you. Rest in peace. And I could say more, but there's so much more. There's people who are going to speak behind me. And the words that were spoken by my daughter and Kerry and my 2 great nieces and my grandson Paul were amazing, awesome. A true reflection of who she was, and what she meant to them, what she meant to the family, and what she meant to the community. But to us as a family, to my brothers and sisters, we were blessed, truly. And thank you very much. Cheers.
You can certainly feel the love in the room. Some beautiful tributes. And when I was checking on the speakers earlier on, Ricky is listed as being first, but he decided he wanted to go last because he wanted to round it all up, and I think he did a perfect job. So thank you so much for each of you sharing those beautiful tributes. Now, a lovely way to take a trip down memory lane is through some photos. Auntie Ray's family have chosen some beautiful photos along with a couple of songs, and they would also like to acknowledge that in some of the photos are important and special family and friends who are no longer with us. So, yes, just remember that when you're watching the photos of these special times in Auntie Ray's life. Please enjoy.
I wandered today to the hills, Maggie, to watch the sea below. The creek and the creaking old mill, Maggie, where we used to long ago. The green grove is gone from the hill, Maggie, where first the daisy sprung. The creaking old mill is still making since you and I were young. Oh, they say that I'm feeble with age, Maggie. My steps are much slower than then. My face is a well-written page, Maggie, and time all alone was the pen. They say we have outlived our time, Maggie, as dated as song that we've sung. But to me, you're as fair as you were, Maggie, when you and I were young. They say we have outlived our time, Maggie, as dated a song that we've sung. But to me, you're as fair as you were, Maggie, when you and I were young. When you and I were young.
Oh, the crystal chandeliers light up the paintings on your wall. The marble statuettes are standing stately in the hall. But will the timely crowd that has you laughing loud help you dry your tears when the new lights off of your crystal chandelier? Never did fit in too well with the folks you knew, when it's plain to see that the likes of me don't fit with you. So you traded me for the gaiety of the well-to-do, and you turned away from the love I offered you. Oh, the crystal chandeliers line up the paintings on your wall. The marble statuettes are standing stately around the hall. But will the timely crowd that had you laughing loud help you dry your tears when the new words of your crystal chandelier? I see your picture in the news most every day. You're the chosen girl of the social world, so the stories say. But a paper smile only lasts a while, then it fades away. And the love we knew will come home to you someday. Oh, the crystal chandeliers line up the paintings on your wall. The marble statuettes are standing stately around the hall. But will the timely crowd that had you laughing loud help you dry your tears needle wears off of your crystal chandelier. Oh, when the needle wears off of your crystal chandelier.
How old do you think I am, he said. And I said, well, I didn't know. He said, you know, I turned 65 about 11 months ago. And I was sitting in Miami pouring blended whiskey down when this old gray black gentleman was cleaning up the lounge. Well, there wasn't anyone around except this old man and me. And the guy that ran the bar was watching good old Nashville music on TV. And uninvited, he sat down and he opened up his mind on old dogs and children and watermelon wine. You ever had a drink of watermelon wine? He asked, and he told me all about it, though I didn't answer back. He said, ain't but three things in the world that's worth a solitary dime, but old dogs and children and watermelon wine. He said, you know, women think about themselves when men folk ain't around. And friends are hard to find when they discover that you're down. He said, I tried it all when I was young and in my natural prime. Now it's old dogs and children and watermelon wine. He said, you know, old dogs care about you even when you make mistakes. And God bless little children while they're still too young to hate. And when he moved away, I found my pen and I copied down that line about old dogs and children and watermelon wine. Well, I had to catch a plane up to Atlanta that next day. And as I left for my room, I saw him picking up my change. And that night, I dreamed in peaceful sleep of shady summertime, of old dogs and children and watermelon wine.
Some very special memories and photos shared there. To continue our tributes for today, I have a list of some very special people in Auntie Ray's life: Dr. Jane Grecian, Iris White, Matt Gray and Uncle Jim Burge. I'd like to ask Dr. Jane Grecian to begin our tributes. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi everyone. I was Auntie Ray's GP for many years, and when Doris and Ricky asked me to speak today, I said, yes, of course, it'd be an absolute honour. But since then, I've been really unsettled about it because preparing for this has taken me back into all of those times in the past 22 years that she was part of my life, and I'm sorry. And I miss those times, and I miss those people who have passed, and I miss her. I first got to know her when she was coming with Uncle Albert to see me for his medical appointments at GJAC. He always skipped in and was full of life, even when he was really unwell. He had so many stories to tell. He talked about his ancestry, his culture, his people. He was generous with his teachings, and he was tough. But it was to her I turned for advice, and she became my mentor. I would ask her about anything that I was unsure of, that was niggling away at me, that my training did not have answers for. And she would advise me of relevant cultural aspects, thank you, and the spirituality so deeply embedded in her people. And this knowledge helped me in the way I cared for my patients. She was such a wise woman, and she always knew exactly what was going on. Once I even asked Uncle Albert how she knew something had just happened, given that she wasn't there. And he told me that she knows everything. She can see through 10-foot thick rock walls and know exactly what's happening on the other side. I went to her home in Bruthen often, and over cups of tea and biscuits, she would talk about her history and her family, from when she was a young girl to meeting Uncle Albert, their marriage, the hard work picking beans, moving to wherever the work was, and having lots of babies in quick succession. Thank you, Christine. And how the mothers would support each other and look after each other's children when one of them was away looking after a sick child. There were often other people at her home, sitting around her table, talking or watching TV, people coming through town, stopping to visit her family and community, and the family dogs, of course, an ancient one out the back, and little white dogs inside. It was a warm and welcoming place always. And I'll always remember her standing at her front gate, framed by that purple wisteria. She always looked so radiant. She helped me when I set up my clinic in McLeod Street 7 years ago. She would come in and quietly let me know if something didn't look right and had cultural implications that I would never know. She would come back in sometime later and smile and tell me that what I'd done to fix it was okay. She was one of the 4 founding elders of the Centre of Excellence for Aboriginal Health in East Gippsland, CHEG, Uncle Jumbo Pearce, Uncle Albert, Auntie Marion Pearce, Auntie Rachel and Ricky Mullet started to talk about needing to increase the number of Aboriginal doctors for East Gippsland. They would laugh at me sitting quietly listening to their every word. Ricky still laughs about it. They wanted more Aboriginal doctors because they knew that one of the blocks to the Aboriginal community's health was being able to feel comfortable with and understood by non-Aboriginal health professionals. There was a long history of being discriminated against in the mainstream health system, and even in GJAC, whilst the doctors were respected, we did not have the cultural and spiritual knowledge needed. Many Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people stayed away from seeking advice about their health. So on the 8th of December in 2006, we had our first meeting to establish CHEG. Bonnie O'Shaughnessy, Phyllis Andy, Gina Bundle, Cassandra Anderson, Dave Campbell, Deb Blaber, Doris, Christine, May and Margaret Pearce, Tammy Bundle, Narelle Bragg, Frances Haldane, Doug McManus, Brian Stevens, many others became involved. Shana Shaughnessy, Robbie Hudson. We met Often we ran a conference, we did some really important research led by Auntie Doris and Deb Blaber with Dave Campbell's support as the director of Monash Uni School of Rural Health, and we started a program for school students, Aboriginal school children, called Just Looking at Careers in Health. A part of this was camps for school students to introduce them to the idea of becoming a doctor, a nurse or another health professional. Kiana Hood, Bryony King came and taught the kids CPR and talked about how good it was to be a paramedic. Auntie Rachel and Auntie Marion were the elders who provided the cultural backbone to those camps in the early days. Doris also and Christine. They taught the kids about their culture. Auntie Ray sat with the possum skin cloak around her, talking quietly with the kids. She would invite the kids to wear the possum skin cloak, and their faces would light up and transform, and they would stand taller as pride filled their hearts. And it filled our hearts to see it. Doris has continued that role. Then in later years, when she moved into Ricky's home, and 2 years after that into aged care, she still knew absolutely everything that was happening around her. And she remembered everything. And every time I saw her, she'd talk about her family, her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Her family was always her priority, and she was utterly and unwaveringly supportive and committed to them. And her culture and spiritual life and her ancestors were who she was. She was a beautiful woman, and I loved her and I miss her. Thank you. Thanks, Christine.
Thank you, Jane. Now, Iris. Where's Iris? She's got a few things to share with us today about her friend. Thank you, Iris.
Orange. Like Dr. Jane before me, when Doris invited me to come and share a little about Auntie Rachel, I was probably felt a bit unworthy to actually be invited to speak. But I want to say, I've known Auntie Rachel since I was a very small child. I think my first recollection of being with family was at La Perouse, Can River, camping at Mystery Bay. But in more recent years, the last 20 years, we began a journey under the leadership of Auntie Rachel, Auntie Ray Solomon Stewart, my mother, Auntie Deanna Davison, and Auntie Margaret Dixon, 4 Monero Narrago matriarchs. That journey took us back to the high country and the Monero Plains. And for me personally, it was really the beginning of my journey, my learning walk. And some of you will know one of Auntie Rachel's stories, the long walk, the learning walk. Auntie Rachel, over the past 20 years, took me on a journey, took a number of us on a journey to learn country, to learn what country really means. I'm very privileged to have been on that journey with her. The last time Auntie Rachel, Auntie Ray Solomon Stewart and Mum were on country, we went up to the headwater of the Snowy River. And those old women and ourselves had the opportunity to plant our feet in the birthplace of the Snowy River, just below the summit of Kosciuszko National Park, where some really important work has been done. Those old women cleared that space for Monero Narigo people who come behind to be welcomed there. And I've thought about that journey, and I think some of the things that are really important and some of the lessons that I learned during that time was when you're working with bureaucracies who have a sanctioned responsibility to care for country, that's a long lesson to learn, and it's a very slow process. And probably one of the most important, I think, things that happened as a consequence of the work that was begun 20 years ago, but took 15 years to come to fruition, was the installation of 3 signs. And that might not sound a lot, but it was a lot of work and a lot of effort. There are now 3 signs that grace the entries to Kosciuszko National Park. One down the Lower Snowy, a sign on the Alpine Way that takes you out to Thredbo, and another sign on the road to Perishat Sawpit Education Centre. A beautiful sign with imagery of the bogong moth that was part of Auntie Rachel's artwork, with the words, Noringe, welcome to the traditional lands of the Monero Narigo people in New South Wales. Some of the work that our old people have done, we see some of that work is tangible, but a lot of that work is intangible, and we won't always see it. But we know that footprint, and while Auntie Rachel's heart was up on that high country and on the Monero Plains, and that last visit was to the headwater of the Snowy River, she hadn't been able to return to country in this last couple of years. So today I bring country with me, some soil from that high country, and just acknowledge the Bradshaw, Rutherford line of our Monero Narigo people, that Auntie Rachel made sure that we all knew our connection over those years, our connection to country and our connection to one another as Monero Narigo people. And probably the greatest lesson that I've learnt from my time with Auntie Rachel, there have been many things said today to honour her, and I would just like to acknowledge the other lesson that I've learnt from her, and that was graciousness and grace. A very quietly spoken woman, but so much power in that grace. I know I will miss her greatly, but I'm so very happy that I have had the opportunity to spend time with Auntie Rachel over the last 20 years. So thank you, Auntie Rachel.
Thank you so much, Iris. A beautiful tribute. Now, Matt Gray, where's Matt? He's got a few things he'd like to share with us today. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, guys. Firstly, thanks to Ricky and Doris for giving me this opportunity to talk about Auntie Ray. My name is Matt. I'm the manager at Bairnsdale Parklands. I have known Auntie Ray for just under 3 years since I moved to Bairnsdale. I feel a little bit shortchanged because I think there's so much more to her that I just didn't get to know, but I think knowing you guys now, that I will hopefully get to know her a lot more. So thank you. Great chats. Everything you spoke about Auntie Ray, I saw that in our care. Love of animals, love of art. We had a rambunctious dog in the care community that she seemed to be the only one to keep it under control. So I think she just had that intellect, the animals had that intellect of her, so it was really quite nice. So having known her for just under 3 years, my speech is going to be very short, but really just want to thank Auntie Ray, thank yourselves, the family, for entrusting us with Auntie Ray's care in her later years. So thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Now, to finish our tributes for today, I'd like to ask Uncle Jim to come forward. Where's Uncle Jim? There he is. Thanks, Uncle Jim.
What a lovely view. And contribute to a beautiful lady. Name's Jim Berg, I'm a Gundish Mara. And my experience with the Montas and the Mullets go back to the 70s. And you just start off talking about Uncle Albert. When he was in hospital in Melbourne, I went up to see him, and I was stopped at the receptionist. And she said, "What are you doing here?" He can only see his family. And all of a sudden, from one of the rooms, I heard this voice, "Let him in, let him in, he's my brother." And they let me in. The other person who talked to me like that was Auntie Rachel. I had a meeting at Bairnsdale and she followed me out to the car. It was about 80 or 90 degrees in the shade, as they say. And we was yarning away and all of a sudden we heard an owl. For those who don't know about the totems of the owl, is the bird of wisdom and is the bird of death. And I looked at Auntie Rachel, and all of a sudden, this owl flew over us. And I said to Auntie Rachel, "This bird is singing me, I'm going to die." She looked at me and said, "You go steady driving back to Melbourne and you'll be all right, my brother." The magic word. That made me feel heartburn and tearful. As tearful as I got when we received an email, "Could we come up to this special occasion?" I cried as I walked back to my soulmate in the kitchen, because it's a privilege. I first came in contact with the Montas and the Mullets, can remember back in the early 70s. And then I looked and saw a family bound together by culture, spirituality, and strength for each other. They were and still are, as far as I'm concerned, the most cultural family that I have ever come across. Took my soulmate down there once, and they were on the kitchen floor making little covers for their boomerangs and spears and shields. And behind all that was Auntie Rachel. She delivered to them the culture and the spirituality that a lot of our people have never had the opportunity to have. And she gave that strength to several of her family that still continue today. Kerry, Power, Ricky, and the Pattons followed in Auntie Ray's footsteps. Well, I worked with Ricky, and he always voiced his opinion strongly, just like the rest of the family. He didn't let personalities stand in his way if it comes involved in culture, spirituality. That applied to Kerry. They were, in a sense, some of my teachers back in those days. And we were invited on many occasions to celebrate the birthdays in the shadows of Pentridge Prison, up there in Bairnsdale as well. It was always made welcome, extended family at its best, and we feel that way. And to be called my brother was one of the greatest compliments I've ever received in my life. A strong personality, strong culture, pass it on to the future generations of the family, and that's been spread right throughout Victoria, the strength and the passion. To you, sister, I love you, we love you, and you rest in peace. And to all of you, may the spirits of my ancestors be with you all on your life journeys. Thank you.
I'm never quite sure whether tributes deserve a round of applause, but I feel today they really do. Everyone's tributes today, from the beginning to the end, have been truly remarkable, and they certainly reflect how special was Auntie Ray to each and every one of you here. I know that everyone here has their own special memories and stories, and a lovely way to continue celebrating Auntie Ray's life is to join the family when we do conclude here today. They are headed to the Bairnsdale Cemetery, where we will formally conclude Auntie Ray's service. You are invited to the cemetery, and then across the road is the Bairnsdale Racecourse, and if you are able to, I know that Auntie Ray's family would love you to join them at the Bairnsdale Racecourse for some refreshments, and it's a lovely way, as I said, to continue celebrating her life. So a warm invitation to join them at the racecourse when we do conclude here today. Well, this service has been a chance to give thanks for Auntie Ray's life, and we have collectively spent this time together remembering the impact her life has made. While we are united in our sadness at her passing, we are also warmed and comforted by our special memories. Let us leave here today enriched by these special memories and with the intention of living our lives to the fullest. We know that Auntie Ray would want that for you all. Before we conclude, I would like to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you again for being here today, particularly those who have travelled. A very special thank you. Sorry, while I'm finished, I'll just finish this a little bit and then you can come forward. Sure. A very special thank you must go to Dr. Jane Grecian for your support and your guidance, and to Matt and his staff from Parklands Nursing Home who were wonderful in their care for Auntie Ray. Auntie Ray was a very popular resident, as Matt said, at the nursing home. Everyone loved her, and her final years were spent being so well taken care of, something her family are so grateful for. To everyone who has sent messages, the visits, the phone calls, and the general care and concern, it's been amazing. Please take this as a personal thank you from Auntie Ray's family. They appreciate it more than words can say. Please feel free to come forward.
For those who don't know me, I'm Colin. They call me Chook. Dad and Mum call me Chook. And it's always been that way. Mum and Dad don't call me Colin, they call me Chook. Even when they ain't seen me for years, they still call me Chook. What I'd like to say here now is, for all the respect we as Aboriginal people have come to pay Mum, or you non-Aboriginal people who are here today, thank you for your respect and being here too, because after all, we are all family. We're here for the one reason, and that is to see this lady be placed in peace, and we are all there to witness it. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Chook. Well, as some people journey through life, they leave footprints wherever they go, footprints of kindness and love, of inspiration and happiness. Even though Auntie Ray has gone, we can still look back and clearly see the footprints she has left behind, and we can remember that her life was one of value and purpose, and it was filled with a whole lot of love. Auntie Ray, your grace and kindness will live on in our hearts forever. Your spirit has left an indelible mark on each life you have touched. As we bid you farewell, we find comfort in knowing that your legacy of love, knowledge and wisdom will guide us always. May your spirit dance in the dream time, reminding us that love transcends all boundaries. Thank you.
The old hometown looks the same as I step down from the train, and there to meet me is my mama and papa. Down the road I look, and there runs Mary, hair of gold and lips like cherries. It's good to touch the green, green grass of home. Yes, they'll all come to meet me, arms reaching, smiling sweetly. It's good to touch the green, green grass of home. The old house is still standing, though the paint is cracked and dry. And there's that old oak tree that I used to play on. Down the lane I walk with my sweet Mary, hair of gold and lips like cherries. It's good to touch the green, green grass of home. Then I awake and look around me at 4 gray walls that surround me, and I realize, yes, I was only dreaming. For there's a God, and there's a sad old portrait. On and on we'll walk at daybreak. Again, I'll touch the green, green grass of home. Yes, they'll all come to see me in the shade of that old oak tree as they lay me 'neath the green, green grass of home. The old hometown looks the same as I step down from the train, and there to meet me is my mama and papa. Down the road I look, and there runs Mary, hair of gold and lips like cherries. It's good to touch the green, green grass of home. Yes, they'll all come to meet me, arms reaching, smiling sweetly. It's good to touch the green, green grass of home. The old house is still standing, though the paint is cracked and dry. And there's that old oak tree that I used to play on. Down the lane I walk with my sweet Mary, hair of gold and lips like cherries. It's good to touch the green, green grass of home. Then I awake and look around me at 4 gray walls that surround me, and I realize, yes, I was only dreaming. For there's a God and there's a sad old portrait. On and on we'll walk at daybreak. Again I'll touch the green, green grass of home. Yes, they'll all come to see me in the shade of that old oak tree as they lay me 'neath the green,